Lena Nguyen had never been intimidated by a house before, but as she stood on the perfectly trimmed lawn of 42 Sycamore Lane, Oak Hollow's most pristine address, clutching a handwritten invitation to her own engagement party, she felt like an intruder in a museum. Every shrub stood at attention. Every window gleamed. Even the welcome mat looked like it had been pressed with an iron. "Don't be nervous," Marcus whispered, squeezing her hand. "She's just particular." Lena smiled, but her stomach twisted. She'd heard the stories. How his mother once asked a neighbor to repaint their front door because the red was too loud. How she'd gently discouraged a child's lemonade stand for disturbing the peace. But Marcus adored her, and Lena wanted to belong, not just as his fiancée, but as part of his world. Inside, soft light danced across crystal glasses and silver trays. Eleanor Vance, Marcus's mother, greeted her with a cool embrace and a gaze that seemed to notice everything. The way Lena tucked her hair behind her ear, the simple gold band on her finger, the quiet hope in her eyes. "You'll be moving into the Henderson house, I hear," Eleanor said, voice smooth as porcelain. "Charming, though it needs discipline." Lena nodded politely, but as she sipped her champagne, she couldn't shake the feeling. This wasn't a welcome. It was a warning. The tension hadn't erupted yet, but the air was already charged. 2 weeks after the wedding, Lena and Marcus moved into their newly renovated bungalow on Maple Grove Circle. Lena had spent months designing it. Light-filled rooms, open shelves, a sunroom just for her plants. It was her sanctuary, her fresh start. On their third morning, 3 crisp envelopes sat in their mailbox. The first mentioned the soft green paint on their front door, not in keeping with neighborhood character. The second noted their porch swing was slightly too wide. The third politely suggested their welcome mat didn't match the tone of the street. All were signed by Eleanor. Marcus sighed. "She's just used to things a certain way." But Lena saw it differently. Every choice she'd made, every brushstroke, every piece of furniture, was being quietly erased, as if her presence itself was a mistake. That afternoon, she walked to the community office. Eleanor sat behind a gleaming desk, reviewing papers with calm precision. "The green reminds me of the sea," Lena said gently, "and the swing was a gift from my grandmother." Eleanor didn't look up. "Consistency matters, dear. It keeps things peaceful." Lena left with her heart heavy. She wasn't asking for permission to live. She was simply trying to exist, and that, it seemed, was too much. Refusing to shrink herself, Lena planted a small garden along her side fence. Rosemary, mint, lavender, and bright marigolds. She called it her peace patch. Neighbors began to stop by. Children pointed at the butterflies. Even old Mr. Peterson from across the street smiled and said, "Looks like summer finally came to Oak Hollow." But 3 days later, a bright sign appeared in her garden. Not unkind, but firm, asking her to remove the plants for not fitting the area's look. This time, Lena didn't argue. Instead, she shared a photo of her garden online with a simple message. "Is beauty ever out of place?" To her surprise, messages poured in. Others shared their own quiet struggles. A birdbath called "too fancy." A child's chalk drawing washed away for neatness. Suddenly, Lena wasn't alone. Eleanor called that evening. "You're stirring things up," she said, voice tight. "I'm just asking for a little room to breathe," Lena replied. "Is that so wrong?" A long pause. Then, softly, "Change makes people uneasy." But Lena was beginning to suspect Eleanor wasn't guarding a neighborhood. She was guarding a memory. For their 6-month anniversary, Lena hosted a small dinner, just Marcus's closest friends, and, at his request, Eleanor. She cooked for hours. Herb-crusted salmon, roasted vegetables, a chocolate torte. She even used Marcus's late father's vintage wine glasses, hoping the gesture might soften something between them. Halfway through dessert, Eleanor set down her fork. "The table is lovely, Lena, but real silver would have honored the moment more." She paused. "Clara always said, 'How you set the table shows how you honor the people at it.'" The room grew still. Clara, Marcus's father, had passed away 10 years ago. Later, in the kitchen, Marcus finally lost his patience. "Why do you keep doing this?" "She's trying." Eleanor's composure cracked. "Trying to what?" "Redecorate our history like it's a store display." Lena stepped in. "I don't want to erase your past. I want to add to it." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "This street. This home. It's all I have left of him." And in that moment, Lena saw it. Beneath the polished surface was a woman holding on to every detail, afraid that if she let go, even a little, she'd lose him all over again. Determined to understand, Lena volunteered to help sort through old community records. In a quiet basement, she found a box labeled Vance Family, 1985 to 1995. Inside were hand-drawn plans of the neighborhood, with notes in two different handwritings. One neat and precise. The other is warm and looping. "Add bench here. Clara's reading nook. Plant lilacs by the gate, her favorite. Front porch swing for baby Marcus. Must hold 2++ storybooks." Tucked in the back was a letter, written just months after Clara's passing. "I can't change a single thing. If I move one stone, it's like losing him all over again. So I'll keep it perfect. For him. For Marcus. Even if it kills me to stay still." Lena sat on the floor, tears falling onto the yellowed paper. Eleanor wasn't pushing her away out of spite. She was trying to keep a love alive, and Lena's presence was a reminder that time had moved on without asking. Instead of fighting back, Lena baked a cake, the kind Clara used to make according to an old community newsletter. She delivered it with a note. "He would have loved this garden. May I sit with you a while?" Eleanor opened the door, surprised, but she stepped aside. They sat in the sunroom, the very spot marked Clara's reading nook on the old plans. Sunlight filtered through lace curtains. "You found the letters," Eleanor said quietly. "I did," Lena replied. "I'm so sorry for your loss." Eleanor's voice trembled. "I thought if I kept everything exactly as it was, he'd still be here in some way. I lost my mom when I was 16, Lena said. I'd give anything to have her voice, her recipes, even her gentle scolding. You still have a chance to build something new with Marcus. With me." Eleanor looked out at the garden. Lena's lavender now blooming beside Clara's old lilacs. Maybe it's time to let the garden grow." At the next community gathering, Eleanor stood before the neighbors, not with a list of corrections, but with a new idea. "For too long," she said, her voice softer than anyone remembered, "we've confused order with care. Our street was built on love, not just neatness." She proposed a simple change, that families could add personal touches to their homes and gardens, as long as they came from the heart. Lena joined her in leading the effort. Together, they redesigned the shared courtyard, Eleanor's classic hedges now framing Lena's mosaic-tiled fountain. Neighbors added painted stones, small benches, and even a little library box. One Sunday morning, Marcus found them side by side on his mother's porch, sipping tea, debating whether to add a bench under the old oak tree. "You two are terrifyingly efficient," he joked. Eleanor smiled. A real one, warm and unguarded. "We're learning." Lena reached over and gently squeezed her hand. The tension was gone. Not because one side won, but because both chose to listen. And in the heart of Oak Hollow, something new began to bloom. Not a perfect street, but a kind one. Not a house frozen in time, but a home where past and future could sit together, share tea, and grow side by side.